You've heard a very good background of what redistricting really is. I'm certainly not going to try to amplify or to educate you as an expert in redistricting. I was asked instead if I would make some remarks about my experience as a state representative, then a state senator, and also I started out in the county board and had some recent experience in county board redistricting. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about redistricting from a practical sense. Money, politics, that's the heart and blood of the process. When you talk about reform, you have to talk about those things because they have more to do than anything else with how congressional, state senate, state house, and county board districts, how they're drawn. As we've heard, the basic principles, don't want to go through all of those, we want equal population, etc., compactness, contiguousness, all these things are pretty well set and certainly have an impact on the process. Now, many states do establish additional rules and criteria, prerequisites, such as requiring districts respect integrity of existing geographic, political entities. Illinois doesn't have any of these types of rules. So are there any problems with the way we go about it? From my experience, just kind of reiterating what you've already heard, I guess, a little bit, but some of the redistricting problems, it's too partisan. You look at how we do it in Illinois, Chris, Professor Mooney has outlined. We've got a tiebreaker mechanism where we have a bipartisan commission. If the state legislature can't pass a bill in both chambers and get it signed by the governor, then it fails and it goes to the bipartisan commission, and it's evenly split Republican and Democrat. If they can't reach an agreement, then only in Illinois, as far as I know, the Secretary of State will reach into a hat and pull a tiebreaker, either pulling out a Republican person for the commission or a Democrat. They will then join the commission. Whoever wins that draws the map. Now in 1991, 2001, no bipartisan agreement reached. We had to use a tiebreaker. So one party single-handedly draws those maps. Party leaders use their power to gerrymander to favor their political party. Redistricting, as already been outlined, is a once-in-a-decade process, so it has long-term implications, and it results in safe incumbent districts potentially for 10 years. In 2011, there was no need for bipartisan agreement. One party ruled and was in complete control of both chambers and had the governor's office. The process, when it's controlled by legislators, my experience is legislators, this will be shocking, I'm sure, but legislative leaders use their power to control the redistricting process. As a result, when you think about it, step back, look at it, legislators end up selecting the citizens they will represent rather than the other way around that we've come to think of in a democracy with elections. So the other problem is that there's no transparency. Illinois residents have no effective influence in behind the doors redistricting processes like we have in Illinois. Here's the result. Well, okay, so if this might upset some on one side and maybe not, but it just really depends who's in control. If Republicans are in control, yes, Republicans draw the map and the Democrats suffer, but they are skillfully done, especially now with the computer programs that we have. They can be almost downright diabolical in their effect for keeping a party in control or keeping incumbents in place. So are there alternative approaches to redistricting? Should we consider alternative approaches? Yes, we should definitely try. Iowa's been mentioned. Professor Mooney described that. They've got a legislative services agency. It's staffed by nonpartisan types. They typically draft bills and research for Iowa legislature, but they're also assigned the task of coming up with a new map. So we looked at that and we said in Illinois, in Champaign County locally, where I'm from, they said, well, the county board looked at Iowa and said, that looks like a pretty good idea. So in 2011, actually March 2010, they adopted a resolution, resolution number 7307, signed March 8, 2010. And in 2011, the Champaign County Board appointed the Champaign County Redistricting Commission. It's based on the Iowa statute, used objective objective statistical tests, the kind of statistical tests that Professor Mooney was outlining. Process was out, gosh, you know, that sounds like a good thing, a good reform. I was asked, and I said, sure, I'd be glad to participate, end up as chairman of this Champaign County Redistricting Commission. So what did we look at? Using the Iowa statute, we looked at, and this is all in House Resolution 7307. You can Google Champaign County Clerk and look up Resolution 7307 and find all these definitions. We looked at the ideal equal district, population, deviation, mean deviation, overall range, smallest majority measurement. What I'm trying to say here is there were objective criteria that we used. There's also, as has already been described here, non-population criteria, Voting Rights Act, constitutional requirements. We wanted to maintain communities of interest, groups having shared interests or identity, compactness, make sure the shapes are, you know, as rounded and squarish as possible. Contiguous districts are connected, and preservation of municipal, township, and precinct boundary lines. Now, for anybody listening and thinking, well, you know, I think they should all be perfectly square. We shouldn't divide towns, townships, and counties, and all that sort of thing. Try it sometime. Go to the web, look up. There's plenty of software out there that's up and running on the web that you can use to try and draw your own political boundaries. It's hard. It's very difficult to do these things. So what we tried to do was, you know, and I said redistricting is the most political thing that you can possibly think of. Well, in Champaign County, with the resolution number 7307, we took politics out of it, no political factors. So we didn't take into account voting patterns. We didn't look at voting records. We didn't look at past election results. We didn't look at party affiliation, nor did we look at incumbency. Now, especially this last factor, incumbency, Professor Mooney mentioned in Iowa, yes, more or less the legislature rubber stamps whatever the commission there in Iowa does and will adopt it. Well, here in Champaign County, the Champaign County Board had to approve whatever it is the commission proposed. So that was lurking. So we did keep the process open to the public. We had transparency. We documented our criteria for how we created plans in individual districts. The software that we used was open, and you could come in and use it if you were in the public. There was a public terminal. We showed everybody the maps. We published them. Our minutes were recorded. You could listen to them on the web. We had all the data that we used that was available to the public. All this was available on our websites. So open meetings and plus public hearings, and if you couldn't come, you could find it in the on the website. So the process, which is also in resolution number 7307, as I talked about already, it was a professional, nonpartisan staff in Champaign County that did this for us at our direction, which is kind of, you know, that's just part of the process. You can have all the software you want, all the nonpartisan staff you want, but somebody still directs and somebody still has to put in the numbers and the criteria and all that sort of thing. So there becomes that element of doubt or perhaps mistrust in the process that somebody's wondering, you know, if you're not tinkering with it. But so there is, although objective statistical tests are used, there's some subjectivity. It was open to the public where we were constantly watched. We had 21 printed maps developed with summary statistics. Commission used statistical information to weigh alternative maps. We narrowed it down. Again, a bit of subjectivity here. The commission itself then went through the 21 maps, went down to 5 maps for further study. We took into account the voting age population, minority races for voting rights compliance. Commission instructed staff to make further revisions. We went down from 5 then to 3 maps, and ultimately the commission adopted 1 map by a majority vote, split 7-4, and yes, 4 that voted against were with one party. Reality check. Okay. May 4, 2011, the Champaign County Board voted 15-12 party line vote to reject the first map. Okay, that was a blow. So we went back, regrouped. Redistricting Commission met, developed 3 new maps, and submitted them to the Champaign County Board. We felt pretty good. You know, we listened, tried to adopt the criticisms. There's always things that you could do better, and so we tried. So 2 weeks later, about 2 weeks later, on May 19, 2011, Now this is from the News Gazette report. In a surprisingly swift vote Thursday night, Champaign County board members approved a new county board district map that had been submitted last week by the local chapter of the NAACP. Aha. The vote on the map, also effective in 2012 and expected to be in place for 10 years, came with virtually no discussion and by a show of hands, which took about 60 seconds by my recollection. There was no discussion, no debate, no presentation. County board chairman at the time said the vote was 15-11. All Democrats voted for the map except for one. Republicans made no effort to oppose the map. They didn't know it hit them. It happened so quickly, which was among the 3 that had been forwarded to the board by the county's independent redistricting commission. So what did we learn? We're not Iowa. Politics is very alive and well, thank you, here in Champaign County and in Illinois. We still need to do some reform. This was a very good experiment. A lot of thought, a lot of effort went into it. Still more work needs to be done, but it has to be embraced by the people.